morning is really that very interesting narrative that the Torah brings, which is the conversation that happens between Lot and Avram Avinu, because we know ultimately what happens, but I want to just look at and see how that conversation plays itself out. So the Torah says after Avram has come from the famine space, we had to go down to Mitzrayim, which we spoke about. It says Vayal Avram Mitzrayim. So Abraham comes up, he and his wife and everything that he has, and Lot, they all come up. Where do they go? They go to the Negev. We know the Negev as a desert, but it apparently wasn't always like that. But Abraham kaved ma'od v'mikne v'kesef v'zahav, and Abraham is unbelievably wealthy. He's got flocks, he's got silver, he's got gold, he's got everything he could imagine. And he goes on his travels, Negev to Beit El, wherever he was, and he eventually gets to that place where he eventually had been, and where he had previously been, and he brings up a korban there, and everything's fantastic, and seems to be fantastic. But then the Torah says that whilst Avraham Avinu, with all his wealth, is showing his gratitude and everything to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'gam lelot, excuse me, Lot, who went with Avram, also had stuff. Now, what did he have? We said that Avraham had mikneh, kesef, and zav. And Lot didn't have that. Lot had son, uvakar, v'ohalim. He had flocks, and he had ohalim, and tents. Exactly what that means is not clear. But the Rashi points out that why is it that Lot had all of these things? It says, Mi garam shayalozot halichatoim Avram. That the reason is because he was with Avram. I mean, from here it's clear that if a person stays with the right people, one benefits off that. In fact, there's the Gemara. I'm sure you'll recall this. That there's the Gemara which says, that one shouldn't go into competition with a person who's doing very well because his muzzle's shining upon him. Rather, you should try going into some type of partnership, and that's what Lot does. But Rashi is hinting at something else. What he's hinting at is that it's clear that not only is Lot benefiting from Avram, but it would seem to be if he wasn't connected to Avram, his own schus is not good enough. His own merit is not good enough for him to be able to achieve that which he does. And the land would not allow them to stay together. Why?
No.
And they couldn't be together. And that's but strange. Why? Just because they've got so much, there's so much they couldn't live together. So it can't just be, says the Netziv, it can't just be because they've got a lot of flock and that it fills the land. It's not totally populated. Let them just go into different places. So it's obviously more than just the fact that they've got a lot, both of them, but it's the manner in which they engage with that which they have. And therefore we see in the next pasuk, and the next pasuk sheds the light on everything, because the next pasuk says, "Vayiriv ben ro'ei miknei Avram, ben ro'ei miknei Lot, v'aknani v'aprizi az yoshev ba'aretz." There was a riv. There is a divide, a difference of opinion between not between Lot and Avraham, but between the Ro'ei Miknei Avram, those who look after the sheep, so the shepherds, and the shepherd of Avram and the shepherds of Lot. And then the Torah says, "Va'kanani va'prizi az yoshev ba'aretz," and the Kanani and the Prizi were living at that time. Rashi says, "Va'yehi riv lefisha yuroim shalot r'shaim." Why is it that there was this this difference of being, this massive divide? Because the Ro'im, the shepherds of Lot, were Rishaim. What they would do is that they would take their flocks into other people's fields, and the shepherds of Avraham would rebuke them, ala gezel, on theft. And they would say, "What are you talking about? The land is given to Avraham, and Avraham has no heir. Lot is going to be his heir, and therefore it's not theft." However, the Torah says, the way Rashi presents it, Vaprizi, Knani Vaprizi, as Yoshev Ba'aretz, but there are nations that are living in that world. Velo Zacha Ba'Avram Adaim. Avram has not yet got taken ownership of the land, and so therefore it is real theft. The Netziv points out that you have to look carefully in what's going on here. Firstly, why would Lot employ the type of people that would steal? You see that Avram Avinu employs the type of people that are a value match to his business, whereas Lot would seem to be, if he's brought up in the home of Avram, that it would not be a value match to his business, but perhaps it is. And why do we say that? Because we look carefully into that Rashi. Where do these chevra get the fact that Abraham's got no heir and Lot's obviously going to become his heir? It must be that is a message that Lot is giving over to his shepherds, that yes, we don't have everything now, but yes, we'll get it. We'll get it all. We'll get it all because Avraham Avinu is an old man, and at some point in time he's going to pass away. And since he's going to pass away, I'll get everything because he has no heirs, because his wife is already old. There's not a chance that she's going to have a child. And so it seems to be the messaging that is coming through Lot to his shepherds versus the messaging that's coming from Abraham to his shepherds. And so therefore there's a massive rift between them in terms of where are they going, what is their purpose, and what are they doing. The Netziv points out that the Torah tells us that Knani and the Prazi are Yoshev Ba'aretz. And what are the Knani and the Prazi? Those are two different nations. As Yoshev Ba'aretz, they're dwelling in the land. And what is their relationship? Well, it just says they're dwelling in the land. They're dwelling side by side. There's no riv, there's no argument, there's no anything that's happening between these people. And they're looking on and they're seeing these brothers, Abraham and Lot, family, busy fighting within one another. And Abraham sees this. Vayomer Avraham el Lot, al nati meriva beni ubenecha. Let there not be an argument between us, and between our shepherds. Why? We're brothers. And if we're brothers, it's inappropriate. But it's not, it's bigger than that, says the Netziv. It's bigger than that because what was bothering Avram is not just the fact that they're having a machlokes. Everyone has a machlokes. There's always arguments. There's arguments between spouses. There's arguments between brothers and sisters. There are arguments between in business partners. There's always arguments. That's not the point. The point is, where is that argument? In this case, the argument is happening out there. Everybody can see what's going on. And Avraham Avinu is saying the optic is terrible. They are seeing us as brothers who are the ones who are representative of the one God in this world, and we're arguing. What a chilul Hashem that is, says the Netziv. And that's what Avraham Avinu is worried about. He's worried about the chilul Hashem. He's worried about the fact that these Knani and the Prizi, these real, and remember who the Knani are. The Knani are the children of Ham. They're the basest of the base. They are living in peace. But we, Am Yisrael, elevate, the children of Avraham, the progenitors of monotheism in the world, we are arguing. Doesn't make any sense. What a chilul Hashem. How can we expect to be able to bring people closer to the values that we have if we can't even get our own act together? And so therefore he says, Lot, halo kol haaretz lefanecha. The whole land is before us. He parade nama alai, please separate from me. Why does he have to ask him, please separate from me? Please separate from me, because he knows, that Lot knows, that his success is really been based on the fact that he has this connection to Avraham Avinu. Please separate from me. Im hasmol ve'emina, v'mayamin v'asmeila. If you're going to go to the left, I'll go to the right. And if you go to the right, I'll go to the left. We will separate ourselves. We'll move from one another. Why? Because in that way, we'll avoid the machlokes. And I don't want any machlokes. Let's be like the Knani and the Prizi, that we're not living together, we're living separately, and therefore there won't be machlokes. Now, can you imagine? Here is Lot, whose father is dead. Avraham Avinu has brought him up. Avraham Avinu has taught him his values. Avraham Avinu has made sure that, he wiped his snotty nose. Avraham Avinu has done everything for him. What do you think Lot is going to do? What should Lot do at this point in time? So perhaps one could say that Lot would look back and say, hold on a second, you're right. You know what? I don't want to separate from you. Let me understand what it is that's causing the machlokes. Let's discuss it. Let's figure it out, and let's move together in these things. But he doesn't do that, because the reality is Lot is not really the child of Avraham Avinu. He doesn't never really subscribed to what Avraham Avinu was there. He was all there for the money. It's an amazing thing. Avraham came back. It's kol rechusham asher rachashu. That when that's how the beginning it starts. That Hashem tells him to move, and he took everything that he had already established. He had established a proper empire in a way. Avraham Avinu, and Lot goes with him. Lot's always going with him. Because Lot is always going with him, it's because Lot wants to chaparine, so to speak, on the success of Avram. Vayisa Lot et einav, but Lot now lifts up his eyes, and what does he see? Vayar et kikar hayardaim. For the first time, Lot sees, hold on a second, if I go down there, kikula mashke, it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful ground. Hold on a second. Maybe Avram's got a point. I don't have to stick with him anymore. There's a place there where I can take my flocks, because that's my essential wealth, and it's amazing. And I can take them there, and they'll pasture out there, and everything will be fantastic. This is what for the first time it seems that Lot is saying, "Hold on a second, I can do this on my own." Lot is called Kikara Yardain, and what does he do? He chooses the Kikara Yardain. He chooses the material. He chooses the physical rather than staying with Avraham. And what happens is he separates himself. And look how the Torah describes it. Ish, the man, from his brother. And the Mefarshim point out, Lot is the Ish. He's the man. Avraham Avinu still feels this brotherly connection. He still feels this familial love to this man Lot. And what happens? Avram yashav be'eretz Canaan, v'Lot yashav ba'arei hakikar v'yahal ad Sodom. What happens is Avram stays where he is. He doesn't move. And Lot goes to the Arei Kikar, to this fields of all this amazing, beautiful pasture land, v'yahal ad Sodom. And what does he do? Remember, he had a lot of ohalim. And he spreads out his ohalim from the place where he is unto Sodom. Why would you do that? Because you want to connect into the economics of the place of Sodom. But the Torah tells us, but the Anshe Sodom were terrible. Now, did Lot not know that? Of course, he knew that. He didn't have a problem with that. Oile Rasha, Oile Shchena, woe to the wicked, or woe to his neighbor. That's what the Mefarshim explained. That is what Lot did. Why did he do it? Because now what we're really seeing is that in the separation of Avraham and Lot, we are seeing the true colors of Lot and the true colors of Avraham. Now, there's an amazing idea that the Netziv points out, and he says that when we lived in Cape Town, there was this whole discussion about Abraham's tent. That Abraham's tent always was able to bring everybody in and was open on all four sides. It was fantastic, and everybody, no matter who they were, was able to come in, and Abraham would teach them. But here we see that even Avraham Avinu had limits. And the limits were, if you're not prepared to be part of the growth in our values, doesn't mean you have to do everything right now. But if you don't want to be part of the growth within our value-based system, then in actual fact, I'll still consider you my brother, but you don't have a space in my tent, because my tent is a space that has to be a Kiddush Hashem all the time. It's not easy. No one said it was going to be easy, but that's what Avraham Avinu is teaching us, that there will be certain times where even close people to us, we be careful so much if they are not prepared to connect into the system on a real way, not completely, but just on the space of growth, then perhaps we need to separate ourselves. Still, we remember that Avraham Avinu looks after him. He's always worried about him. He's always concerned about him. He goes to save him. He makes sure that he's safe and he's alive, etc., etc., etc. However, doesn't always mean we have to live together. Sometimes, as the Netziv points out, living apart maintains the relationship. It's an interesting idea.